There he is, the man. How you doing today, Steve?
It's 110 degrees here, so I had to get out of my normal studio and quickly try and set up something here. So my volume settings and everything. You came out and you blew this eardrum out, so I had to shove you in this one.
I'm loud anyway. Well, I appreciate the time, and let me tell you, you probably don't know it, but I met you through Dave Savage interview you did with him, but you and Dave Savage, Carl White, Irene Duford, Michael Mann, and Barrett Habib are on my virtual board of directors for
Wow.
life and work.
Wow, that's quite a lineup.
Yeah, in some way or another, I utilize the things that I've learned from you guys in one way or the other. So let's start with give us, for people to kind of understand where you have come from. Start with your 15-year-old 2 days after graduating or getting done with high school to the time you got fired in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Run that back for us.
Well, I love the idea that I graduated. That would have been lovely. So the British schooling system is different. You finish school at 16. Depending on when your birthday is, there are some people that are 15. So I was 15 when school ended. And I remember going to my college counselor, which was, what, you guys go to high school and then you go to college. We go to college, then we go to university. It's slightly different. So I went to my counselor and waited in line outside his office, went inside his office, and he sat down. He looked at my file and he went, "It's a waste of time for you to apply for college." Okay. And he went, "Good luck, mate. You'll be all right." And that was it. And so that was 10 seconds of education. So I left school at the age of 15, straight onto the building site. But here's the weird thing. Like all entrepreneurs, self-made people, self-business owners, that kind of stuff, we're aggravated and we don't know why. And it was back in the 80s and 90s. So I didn't have TikTok and Instagram to show me how inadequate my life was. But I just sensed it. I sensed something was wrong and I needed something different. So, I'm a big, ugly lad, ride around on a bike and stuff like that. So when you marry that with a lot of young teenage pent up frustration and search for clarity, searching for the answer. How can I make something of myself? When all you are every night is in a biker bar with a bunch of drunks. There was a lot of confliction, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. But I knew one thing. I was smart enough to know one thing. You don't get rich by hanging around with poor people. You didn't need to be Einstein to work that out. And so I had to hang around with better people. And again, we didn't have podcasts. We didn't have seminars. We didn't have, our online course. We didn't have anything to be able to give us this. We had books, and at the time, there was no Amazon, so you had to go to the library. You had to know what you were looking for, but how can you know what you're looking for when you don't know what you need to know? That's quite a tough one. So I thought, well, look, I need to hang around with rich people. So I started trying to apply for every job I could that hung around rich people.
Sorry about that, but you were working, like your dad and your grandfather gave you two really great nuggets of advice when you were working for them, correct?
Yeah, well, I came out of school and I had one day that I got to lay in bed kind of thinking, oh, this is great. I don't have to go to school. And then the following day, my dad kicked the bed at 4 o'clock and went, right, you're on the building site with us. And that was it. My life was going to be this. And I remember seeing my dad on the building site. This was the weird thing. My dad's building firm basically ended up with anyone that was in our DNA. So it was my uncle, my cousins. My cousin's girlfriend worked in the little coffee shop. It was all that kind of shit. But right at the end was my granddad, who was just nudging into his 80s and still on a building site, raining in East London. So I remember going up to him one day, and this was a horrible thing to say, but I did it. You don't know when you're a kid. And I went up to him one day when it had been raining, and he was in the tea hut trying to warm up. And I said to him, Granddad, did you ever think you'd be doing this at this age? And of course, that's not nice for someone to hear. He didn't even look at me. He just blew into his tea, and he went, son, if you don't quit today, you'll be me tomorrow.
Huge.
And that was massive. That was massive. So I quit as I left that tea hut. My dad didn't know why, but my granddad spoke to him. Funny enough is I never spoke to my granddad again after that. Never saw him again.
Wow.
And I reckon he's upstairs somewhere creating a bit of a fight or something, and just got an old fashioned waiting for me to come out chat it over. But I'll be thanking him when I get up there.
Right, right. And so you and your father, he said something to you also that was really profound about drowning.
So, so my family are a big, thick, Irish-headed bunch. Not the sharpest tools in the shed. And I remember walking down the high street one day, and I was, oh God, you got to picture the scene. I was like 13, 14 years old. It was a summer holiday. And of course, every summer holiday of the school, I was on the building site, just cleaning up something. And my dad was a chain smoker. And when I say chain smoker, he had one that was lit up that was smoking, and one that would be in the other hand that hadn't been lit up yet. And it was literally kind of like, okay, I'm down, bang, over, get a fresh. It was this situation all the time. Always had 2 cigarettes, one on the go, one ready. And we're walking down the street in London towards the building site, and not speaking, not chatting, smoking away like crazy, him, not me. And all of a sudden he puts his hand on my shoulder, doesn't even look at me. And he says, son, remember this. No one ever drowned by falling in the water. They drowned by staying there. Then he takes his hand off my shoulder and just carries on walking. And I'm thinking, where did that come from? And I just thought he'd been consumed by a fortune cookie or something, or, read it on the back of a bus. Maybe he did. Maybe he read it on a bench, a bus bench or something, and just thought that'd be funny to say. Never known where it's come from. I only ever heard it first from him, but it made me stop and gave me no reference whatsoever until my journey as an entrepreneur started off. And then you suddenly realize that you are in control. You're not in control if you fall in the water. God, we fall over all the time. As business owners, we're always getting wet. But it's our choice as to whether or not we stay there or not.
Yeah, I had the same knowledge extolled onto me from my father. He would always say, never get yourself in a situation that you can't walk away from, which sort of was the same kind of thing. So you end up as a stockbroker in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I had tried to get so many jobs, of which I realized very quickly I was inadequate to do. I got fired. I think I held the world record for the amount of jobs I got fired at. And then I don't know what happened, but a friend of mine knew someone that had this interview for a stockbroking trainee position in Hong Kong. I borrowed my dad's suit and I went to apply for this job. Now, I thought to myself, I'm not going to get it, but hey, we get declined for every opportunity we never take. So I went for it. I went for everything. So I went for this job. And then all of a sudden, I think about 2 or 3 weeks later, I get accepted and I get a flight to go to Hong Kong. I completely forgot about it, but they were taking about 60 of us Londoners over to set up a new division. Obviously, I just got swept in with that lot. So I landed on the Saturday. Of course, I was very nervous, but my girlfriend at the time, who's now thankfully my wife, said go for it. So I think she was just trying to get rid of me. So, I went over there, landed on the Saturday, got drunk with them on the Saturday night. Got drunk with them on the Saturday night and the Sunday night. I'm qualified for both of those. And then did orientation with them on the Monday, and then I was fired on the Tuesday. So It was a very funny situation for me to be trying, but I'm not scared of failing. I'm scared of not trying. And that was ingrained somehow in me from a very early age. And I think it's been my unicorn. I think it's been my superpower to have that ability.
Yeah, you talk about failure in the positive as just it's not failure. It's a learning experience, right?
Do you know, the weird thing is, it's like someone saying to you that blue is an ugly color or blue is an evil color. And you're like, what? You just can't see it. So when I fail, I'm happy. When I'm failing, I'm like, great, I've become educated. So when people go, oh, you don't see failure as a negative, I don't even consider it as a negative. I don't know who came along and said to you that a failure is a negative thing, because for you to become educated, you first got to fail. And then when you fail twice, that's called experience. So when you marry education and experience, you're now credible. And when you're credible, you can charge big invoices. So I can't understand how people have got hold of this failure thing. I'm going, well, let's reframe it. Let's not reframe it. Let's call it what it is, a brilliant education that's going to get you going forward.
Right. So one of the first times you made money making things happen, you had these 4 young, wealthy guys trying to get into a yacht party.
Someone's read my book. Well done. Yeah, it was, I was on the door of this nightclub in Hong Kong because I'd already been fired. And I was watching people. And again, entrepreneurs, we have a choice. Was this done for me or was it done to me? And those are the choices we have. And it's a shift in perspective that can allow you to see the opportunity or not. So when I was working on the door, my fellow meatheads on the door, they just wanted to get home without too much blood on their shirt and maybe scoring a nice little girl that night. Me, I wanted to see if there was anyone in there with money and to watch, how do you interact? How do you communicate with other people? How come you're different? Because you know what it's like. You see a successful person or a wealthy person or someone that's doing good for themselves or creating impact, and there's an aura. There's something about that person. Now, there's a lot of people that pretend to be, and you see through that really quick, But then when someone's really got that je ne sais quoi, that's something special, notice it. So I was watching the planet, and I was watching it from the door of a nightclub, and I was getting this MBA on human psychology. And there were these 4 guys, and these 4 guys were just always polite, always well-dressed, nice watches, clean shoes, belt matched their shoes. I'm picking up on these things, and I'm like, yeah, that's who I want to be. That's my crew. That's the crew that I want to have. And then one day, and I'd got to know them a bit, and to be friends with anyone, you've got to bring value. So I knew where all the clubs were. I knew where all the parties were. So I started getting them into things, just befriending them. And they said to me one night, they said, hey, Sims, you're going down to the yacht party. Now, for anyone that doesn't know about Hong Kong, it's incredibly small. It's really a very, very small island. And all of it is a harbor. So if you're going down to the harbor at a yacht party, it's like saying, hey, I'll meet you on the corner of the street. What street? So I said to him, I don't know. I hadn't been invited to anything. I said, I don't know. Which one are you talking about? And they told me which one they were talking about. I went, maybe. Are you? And they were like, we can't get in. So I was like, okay. So, and I went back to the door, and something was burning and eating in me. And the harbor was literally just around the back of the club that I was working at. So I said to my boy, I said, look, you look after the door. I'll be back. It was early evening. And I went down to this harbor, and I found the girl checking over the stuff that was going up the gangplank for this yacht party. So I walked up to her and I was like, hey, how you doing? I said, it's going to be a great night tonight. By the way, I got 4 of my friends coming here tonight, and they were just asking me, do you want them to be here at like 8:30 or do you want them to be here at 10:30 when it's kind of quieting down a bit? Which one would work for you?
You asked a question that couldn't be a yes or no.
Exactly. So her instant response, because everyone's got a response. I say to you, I turn around and I say, hey, Brian, give me your car. The easiest answer in the world is no, And once I've got that no, then I've got to fight back to get you up to an even keel before I can then push you over into a yes. But if I said, "Hey, Brian, I got to do a few things today, and I'm doing this thing for the church today. Hey, what time can I pick up your car? Would that that would really help me?
The assumptive close, I call it.
Well, it's very hard for you to say no, because you sound illiterate, So I said to this girl, "Do you want them here, at the beginning of the night, or do you want them to be here when the bottleneck at the door was kind of, eased up a bit?" Her instant knee-jerk reaction was to suddenly start going through this list. Now, bearing in mind, for anyone that's just listened to this, I never gave the clients names. But everyone has a knee-jerk reaction. She is just going through this list. It's her protection. A lot of people now pick up the phone, and that's their protection, okay? So everyone has a protective response. That was hers. And I said, look, I don't want to disturb or add any further stress. You got a big night coming up. Just trying to think what would work for you. So I'm being very empathetic to her. So she went, and I can't remember when she said 8:30, 9:30, 10. So she gave me the time, and I went, thank you so much. Let's be blunt. Everyone's going to turn up here. They're going to see the party. They're going to jump. They're going to have a fantastic time. They're 9 times out of 10 going to forget the person who actually put it together. And I know that's you. And I opened up my wallet, of which I had like $400. And I pulled $200 out, and I gave it to her. And I went, tomorrow night, be thankful tonight's over. Be thankful you pulled off an absolutely fantastic event. Grab yourself a takeaway and a bottle of wine and just rejoice.
Sweet.
Have a good night. So I'm now fast forwarding to a point in the future that benefits her that I'm not even part of.
Yeah.
And I went to her, have a good night. And then that's when I can throw everything on black. I walked away without giving her the client's names. Now she could have just said, yeah, have a good night. And then I'm screwed.
Right.
But she went, oh, hang on a minute. And I went, what's that? She went, what's the names? So I went, oh, God, yeah. Roger, Billy, I gave her the 4 names, and she wrote them down on the front of the page. She said, when they get here, you tell them to ask for Amy. They won't be standing in the queue. Perfect. So I went back into the bar. And so I had achieved something. On the way back to the bar, I'm thinking, shit, what if the boys have left the bar? I'm $200 out, which is half the amount of money I got in my wallet. Right. My entire net worth had just halved. I get back to the bar and I said, look, boys, I've had to pull a few strings, but I got you into the party. And they were like, oh, really? Yeah. And I said, yeah, it's $500 per person. And they jumped up and started throwing this money down onto the table. Now, the funny thing is, a few of them wanted to pay for them, for the other person, because they were like, oh, I'll grab you this. Oh, Johnny, I'll get this. When I picked up the money, I had got $3,000. Now, I was only supposed to get 2. Do you remember those points in your life when you've got so little money that just $500 more means the world to you? I'm at a position where I've got $200 in my pocket and I'm holding $3,000. It was like holding $1 million.
No doubt.
And having to give back a lump of it. And I went, guys, you paid me too much. And I had to put this 1,000. It was painful, but they were like, oh, thanks. But I made $1,800 out of that, on that gamble.
Right.
But I realized something. I had tested myself with the woman at the bar, at the boat. I had tested myself with these guys by charging them up. And on top of everything, I'd realized they weren't paying to get onto that boat party. They were paying to avoid the no.
Right.
The no was terrifying them. So when I started working with other affluent clients, I was like, oh, I know you're going to see Taylor Swift next week. I take it you've got backstage passes. No, we haven't. Why not? Oh, we can't get those. Have you noticed how many people actually say we can't do something before actually trying it?
Right.
So
yeah.
I just became this guy, and it was like 25 years. It went from getting you into parties, getting you backstage, getting you on stage. I've had people actually perform on live concerts, getting you on stage, getting you in major movies, getting you a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, getting you a guitar lesson with ZZ Top, getting you to walk the white carpet with Sir Elton John, SpaceX with Elon Musk. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until Forbes. And it was a double-edged sword, because most of my clients like to make out that the only reason they got anywhere was because of who they were. I was like the secret the secret weapon in the back that
yeah.
no one knew about. In fact, for about 25 years, I was probably the most connected man that you've never heard of.
No, right.
And then Forbes did an expose on me, and a massive article they wrote, which was beautiful. It had me in there with Richard Branson, a whole ton of people in there, exposing that I was the real life Wizard of Oz and I was the secret weapon for billionaires. And I got to admit, I got a lot more clients from it, and I lost some of the other clients because they didn't want people going, "Oh, you only got in there because of Sims."
Right, right.
So it was a very funny time.
You had actually created to explain. You were doing these parties, and you were coming up with these passwords, and one of them was Bluefish, and it became a verb, like you bluefish the hell out of that party, right?
Yeah, we wanted people to leave the ego at the door, so we used to come up with these stupid passwords to let them in. Bear in mind, we were charging them $500 to $1,000 a night, but we would still not let them in if they didn't come up with the right password. So when people were coming up and they'd literally lean in and they'd go, Bluefish, and we'd be like, in you go, have a good night. And so it was a kind of a funny little thing that really became synonymous with our events. But because our events were always surprising, and they still are, we run events called speakeasies at Sim Speakeasy. Same thing. We don't tell people where it's going to be. We tell them what city, we tell them what date, and that's the maximum information they get. And for my events now, we charge them $2,000 and they know nothing. But we surprise people once they're in there. We give them an experience and an emotion that they never would have got. So they keep coming back. But in the early stages, if you don't come up with the right password, you don't get in. But that Bluefish became synonymous with the surprise and experience that we gave. So people suddenly started going, oh, I had my kiddie's birthday party and I bluefished the hell out of it. Or I went to a concert and I bluefished my way backstage. And it became an adjective. It became a point of doing something that no one else would expect with what you've got.
Yeah, and you mentioned your lovely bride, Claire, before, and it was Claire that kind of gave you that aha moment, like, hello, you have a job.
Well, as entrepreneurs, we tend to fixate on the wrong bone. And I remember at the time that I had been doing this now for about 7 years. And I was only doing it to have a conversation. In fact, I've always said that my concierge firm was a Trojan horse. I only did what I did to get into the conversation. I would look after you doing XYZ with SpaceX if I could have dinner with you 2 days later and ask you, how do you run an investment portfolio? You know, how do you retain people? How do you hire? How do you get into relationships? How do you do XYZ? That's what I wanted. So I would make you very happy over here, but my eyes were always over here. And I always used to, because I'm not a party animal. I don't care about going down red carpets and, you know, putting tucks. I really don't care about that stuff. So I used to say to my wife, look, don't worry about it. You know, we'll be okay soon. You know, as soon as I've got hold of this guy, because this guy's richer than the last guy. By now I'm dealing with billionaires, you know, people that owned countries, you know. Yeah. No, I swear he's got this project. I'm perfect for the project. He's going to employ me and then I'll have a real job. And that's what I used to say to her. And then one day she printed off our bank statements and she threw them down. We were living in Switzerland at the time. And she went, here's our bank statements. You know, here's all the stuff. Never missed a rent. You got motorbikes downstairs. We got the car. You've got a job. And I hadn't realized it. While fixating on trying to get a job, I'd actually built my own. I was now servicing rich people's problems. And I always used to say that I give rich people more interesting cocktail stories. And that was my whole thing. And then I was like, yeah, I have. So we ran it for a bit longer. We then wrote the book, Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, that you mentioned. And now I teach and coach all over the place on how people can get it for themselves.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about go for stupid, but Claire said something else. Like I've never been married, and you make me like I need a Claire in my life because she said your superpower was ignorance, but I see your superpower as curiosity.
Yeah, and I think they're both accurate. And she's always said that I'm a 55-year-old 5-year-old. We've all got, most of us see kids, no kids, maybe we've even got our own kids. And when they're running around at the age of 5 and they've got like a pillowcase strapped to their neck and they're running around the room pretending they're a superhero, we condone that. We condone their imagination. We're like, yeah, what are you doing? Oh, I'm battling these giant dogs and I'm slaying the dragon and I'm superhero, you know? And you're like, good, yes, you are. You're one. And we condone it. We actually add fuel to it. That's wonderful. But when you're 18 years old and you're running around with that pillowcase around your neck, we tell them to grow up.
Right.
And we kill it. Don't be stupid. You know, do this, do that. Know your place. You know, don't be an idiot. People are laughing at you. And we change it. But one thing that I did notice, which was, again, part of the Trojan horse, was that the people I was dealing with were still children. They would literally, one of the characteristics, which is a really weird one, they would doodle. You would quite often, and I would even look for it. It became so synonymous with successful people that I would look for their pad to see if they were a doodler.
Wow. Interesting.
And they just doodle little things and that, you know, their little pictures and stuff. You look at the bottom of the page, you'll see like a little picture or something like that. And that was always okay, I'm dealing with the person. And then they would say, oh, yeah, I want to do this. And I like it. And the creativity and the curiosity and the imagination and the doodling. And Elon Musk, Larry Page, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, they're all these curious children. How can I have fun with that? How can I make that better? When Elon Musk was looking at cars, he said, look, everyone's focused on making the engine perform better, while it is basically a pile of metal with immense friction, wear and tear, that we install oil into it to reduce that friction. It's a failed component. Let's get rid of it completely and work on something that's got no moving parts. Won't need oil, won't wear out, magnets, you know, and he invented the electric engine that we're all now, you know, aghast with. So the bottom line of it is, these people look how they can gamify things. Mm-hmm. And I realized that, again, right at the beginning of this conversation, I said that I was in the wrong room, you know, and never take, you know, investment advice from a poor person. So now I'm in the room full of children. Now I'm allowing myself to become more of a child, and I'm allowing myself to ask more of myself, ask more of my relationships, ask more of what I'm capable of and what I'll receive, ask and demand more of my standards. And so that's where it kind of grew.
Right. So, for example, you talk about the 3 whys, and the story about the guy who wanted to go to the Playboy Mansion, that it was the epitome of asking why. I love that story.
So while I had this firm, we got a call one day, and one of my team put him through to me because I was working with Playboy at the time when they were still doing their Playboy Mansion parties. And this guy said, oh, I want to go to the Playboy Mansion. I need 2 tickets. And, you know, I was like, okay, you know, what do you need them for? And I said, you know, when do you want to go? And the girl that put it through to me, she said there was something off about his tone. Now, back then, some of the big parties for Playboy were going for like 10 grand a ticket. So you don't spend 20 grand without kind of being a bit excited about it.
Right.
This guy seemed very stern, very short, very off. So I started chatting with him, and I said, so you want 2 tickets? Yeah, I want 2 tickets. Okay, great. You know, let me just get a pen and paper. Now, bear in mind, I'm at my desk. Who hasn't got a pen and paper? So I'm just buying time. And I went, oh, where are you? I'm in New York. Oh, great. Okay. Did you get over to California much? Yeah. Is this going to take long? I need these tickets. No. I'm just getting, damn it, the pen won't work. Hang on a minute. Let me just get another pen. So I'm doing this. I went, so when you get over to LA, you know, do you like to be in LA or, you know, northwest, south? Where do you like to be in California? I like to be up north. I said, oh, that's great. I said, whereabouts? I said, I'm just getting another pen. So, you know, let me just find the bloody thing. He's like, oh, I really like the vineyards. I love being up in Napa. And his tone changes. And I suddenly realized something. So I said to him, "Oh, got a pen." He's like, "Good. Here you go. Here's my card." I went, "Hang on a minute. I've got to open up a program because I don't take your credit card details. I punch it." Again, I'm lying my ass off. I'm just sat in there talking to the guy. And then I went, "Oh, Napa. Sorry, you were telling me about my wife loves wine. I never understand it because I'm a whiskey guy." And he's like, "Oh, the wines." And again, his tone changes. Absolutely. And he's talking to me about wines and that. And I said to him I forget what I said, something like about the champagnes. He's like, "Oh, no, you don't go there for champagne. You go there for the red wines and this and the grapes." He's excited.
Right.
So then again, I said to him, "Okay, right, well, we're ready for this. What's the names for the Playboy Mansion?" He's like, "Yeah, just the sigh, just the depression."
Right.
So
It's just not right. You're going
It's
to the
not.
mansion.
So I take his card, his name's down, and I take the credit card down, and I literally wrote it down on the pad that had always been there. And he's like, "So when will I get these tickets?" I said, "I'm not sure you will." What do you mean I won't? I said, "Look, I'm going to go out on a limb here, all right? And you're free to hang up anytime you like. Are you gay?" And he just goes quiet. And so I said, "Because I have spoken to you for like 15 minutes. Every time I mention the Playboy Mansion, which is a hedonistic just pit, you are depressed. But when we start talking about Napa, you start talking about the wines with passion and excitement, and tell me about you and your partner, how you get up there. Not your wife, not your girlfriend, your partner." So I said, "I'm going out on a limb here. I'm thinking you're probably in a room full of, I don't know, macho. What are you, stockbroker?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I went, "I get the idea you're trying to throw people off the curve." I said, "Because every time we talk about Napa," I said, "So here's an idea. I actually have other clients going to that party. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to fly into LA on these dates, okay? And then you're going to bugger off up to Napa. We're going to set you up in a location." I think it was the auberge we put him in. Him and his partner. You're going to enjoy there. I can get you Quintessa. I can get you all of these places opened up. You're going to go to all of those. You're going to come back to LA. When you come back to LA to fly back to New York, there'll be an envelope there and there'll be 2 ticket stubs for the Playboy Mansion. And when you get back to your office, just throw them on the desk and go, 'Hey, if you weren't there, you weren't there. Don't want to talk about it.'"
Brilliant. You listened and you asked the whys, right?
Yeah. And
that's awesome. You know what I also love about what you were doing? You always seem to have a charity attached, like the Autism Speak connection with Journey.
Yeah. I try to find a way of it making bigger impact than the impact is gonna. So if someone's buying something, great. But if I can buy it, and this is also another thing, that when you're dealing with the Elons, the Eltons, the Richard Bransons, people like, you offering them another $200,000 is not going to do anything to them. Right. But you being able to shine attention on a cause or charity of their belief, that will. So it's usually a good way to get you what you want, to find the cause or charity that they're actually supporting.
Right. So I ride my bike a lot. And I was listening to your book for the second time, and I was actually screaming because you were giving somebody, actually it was an interview you were doing, you were giving somebody the BBQ test. And it leads to two things, Steve. One is you always talk about, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in trouble. So like, I played college basketball. I have all the macho male stuff going. So to create balance, I would hang out with a bunch of women in a sorority who are still my dear friends to this day. And so when you asked the BBQ test, I'm going to have you talk about it, I was screaming because I knew the answer immediately, because I put myself in a room with a bunch of women all the time. So explain the BBQ test.
It's such a simple, stupid test that most people get wrong, and it's usually the guys that get it wrong. So I was at an event a while ago, and there was this guy there in front of me, and I knew who the guy was, and he was there with his partner. I said, "I'm not asking you because you're gay and you're going to get it right." And he kind of looked at me a bit offensive, because I'm not known for being subtle. And then I played the game with somebody else. And then I looked back at him and I went, you would have, wouldn't you? And he was like, yeah, I would have got it right. So he was all right. But so the barbecue game, understand the ethos behind it. People today, they want before they give. And in a situation when you're approaching someone for a relationship, if you try to get everything out of the relationship before you give, then you're not going to get anywhere. So we had this situation, this game came up, and I called it the barbecue game. So I say to him, okay, here's the scoop. And I'm not going to play it with you because you obviously know the game. And I say to people, right, it's Saturday night and you're in Los Angeles and I've invited you up to my house and I'm having a barbecue. What's the first question you ask me? And people will be like, ooh, and you've always got to be careful who you pick. As I say, there was this guy in front of me and I knew he would get it. I never asked the girls this either. I always pick on the macho dudes. I'm like, what's the first question you ask me? And he's like, what time is it? Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. Great question. What's your second question? Who'll be there? Oh, I've got celebrities. I've got cool people coming. I'll obviously be there, so it's going to be a great party. What's your third question? What's the dress code? Can I bring me mate? Can I take photographs? What time does it end? And there's this long line of questions that go. And then eventually, when they've run out of everything, they go, what can I bring?
Yes.
And that's it. And I did that once. Usually, the guys get it like, fourth, fifth, maybe sixth question.
Yes.
Okay? But the girls always get it on the first. They're always like, oh, that sounds great. What can I bring? It's always the first answer for the girls. But in this situation, when I did this, we got up to the 12th question. And I'm like,
painful.
Yeah, you asked 11 questions that helped you. I've invited you to my party. So I put my hand out first and given you something, access to me, and you've come up with 11 dumbass self-centered questions which satisfy you before you have the decency to ask me if I want a potato salad or something. So, that's how you've got to look at it. When you turn up at a relationship, let's say for argument's sake, you, Brian, we've never met. Just to give it a real life experience. We've never met. I see you on the street. Obviously, I listen to your podcast, so I know who you are. And I'm like, Brian, how you doing? You don't know me. My name's Steve Sims, but I really like your podcast. And I have a great community. I was wondering, how would it be if I kind of exposed your podcast to my community? Now, you'd be over the moon about that. So that's me bringing something to your party. Now, all you've got to do is think, I like what he's offering. How do I accept and help him? How do I keep him coming to me? So that's what you've got to do. But it's amazing how many people don't think like that. And it doesn't have to be a lot. You can do this with your local dentist, your PTA, Better Business Bureau, whatever. Just think, what can I do for them? If you own a steam cleaning company, steam clean the house or give them tips on how to do it, whatever, but just give something before you expect to receive.
Right. And another great test that you have is called the Chug Test. Talk about that.
So the Chug Test is I like to think of it as, well, I'll give you the story. I went through a very bad part of my life where I lost who I was. And I bowed to what everyone else said I should look like doing what I was, doing. And I thought to myself, are these the people I want in my life? Because sometimes when you're doing great things, you're going to attract the wrong people. So you've really got to isolate yourself. Who's at my table? Do they support me or are they hanging on for the scraps? And I thought to myself, how can I really, and I like to think simple and stupid. So I thought to myself, how can I run a test to tell people whether or not I'm going to deal with them? And I thought to myself, well, here you go. I'm walking up the high street, 2 lanes of traffic to the right of me, busy traffic. But on the other side of the high street, I see someone in my world. my accountant, my head of sales, my wife, my kids, anyone in your life, do you quickly look to the window and pretend you're really interested in, I don't know, mattresses, and watch the reflection as they go past before you straighten up and walk on so that you can pretend, hey, I didn't see you? Or do you dash across 2 lanes of traffic to jump in front of that person and go, Brian, let's go grab a coffee. I haven't seen you for ages, man. How you doing? Which one of those would you respond to with that person in your life? And if it's not the latter, that you would risk 2 lanes of traffic, replace them. And so I thought, this is weird. And, I would call it the Chug Test. Let's go chug a beer. So I literally started, and you can do this, lay out all the people in your life, all of them. And anyone that comes into your life, run this test. Would I run across 2 lanes of roaring traffic to jump in front of you and go, hey, let's go and chug a whiskey?
Right.
If you wouldn't, get them out of your life and make space for someone that you would.
Right. Before I talk about Go for Stupid, one more scenario that I love, because it speaks volumes about how you listen to your clients or set them up. And it's the one where the 20th anniversary, which was probably the cheapest excursion you created, right?
Yeah, we had this very affluent family that every year would contact me. He only ever contacted me once a year, and it was around his anniversary. And it'd be like, oh, I need something wonderful. And we've had champagne literally sitting on a mound of diamonds. We flew him into Paris for one night. He lives in America, so one night meal and then back. There's been all of these over the top. We did a Broadway show where they were both pulled up onto the show and they were part of the show. So we've done these amazing things for our anniversary. But one day he contacts me and he said, oh, we got to do this one. And as I say, it was the 20th. And he said, oh, it's the anniversary. Got to do something. Got to make it wonderful. This one's a big one. We've really got to create impact. And it was that last word, the impact. Okay. We weren't looking, we weren't looking for awe, bedazzlement, impressive. We were looking for impact. You remember when you drive down the road and a song comes on your radio and it just transports you back somewhere? There's all that impact from your car. So generating impact has got nothing to do with a price tag. So I started questioning him. We started interviewing him. What's impactful for you? What did you do? How did you meet? Why her? Blah, blah. And we started going through all of this. And then it suddenly came down to it that he met her and he had been trying to date her and she wanted nothing to do with him. And then one day he actually decided to get her attention. I've got to make a fool of myself. So he sat outside an area of her college. As she came out, he had a picnic rug, picnic hamper, a boombox the Run DMC would have been proud of. He hit the tunes and got a bottle of real cheap ass champagne, knocked off the cork with a glass, and he went, care to join me? Real cheesy shit in front of like an entire college. And she did. So we thought, why don't we recreate that? So we went through old pictures to actually find out what the picnic rug looked like. We actually even found a picture of what the boombox looked like, and we knew what the hamper looked like. So, of course, we put a better champagne in there. Actually, it was alcohol-free because of the next bit that goes into it. We put some good sandwiches in there and stuff. Again, just made it cool, but a cool hamper. And we found this park near him. Now, it was a public park, so that's why we couldn't have the alcohol version. But we set it all up for him so that every year she's expecting something incredible, magical, flying across the world, hanging out with Elton. She's expecting something magical. So we shove her in a limo, send her off, and basically his limo just drives around for an hour while we get everything set up. And it pulls up the curb of this park. She steps out. He's on the picnic rug. He leans over, hits the boombox, starts playing some Alexander O'Neill. He gets the champagne up. Oh, yeah. Old school, new cool. Alexander is timeless. All right. So he flicks the old champagne. He's like, care to join me? It triggered so much of her memory that even today he's willing to look like an idiot in a public park to do this for her. She just hit the deck crying her eyes out. I've never seen a woman cry so much.
Right.
But it was so impactful to her. We had to get her, escort her over to the rug just to sit with him. And they just sat there listening to this music.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's impact. Don't focus on the price tag, focus on the impact.
Man. So you actually had to essentially just fall into writing Bluefishing, but you had a cause or a reason for writing Go for Stupid. What was the impetus for that?
So Bluefishing was, I was given the chance, and it was one of these books I thought no one's going to buy it because everyone already does it. And so then I suddenly realized that they don't, they're scared of so many things. They're not trying the simple things. They're avoiding all of these things, and they're almost like paying out their problems. Like so many people know today, the best way to get advertising is on social networks. So what do most people do? They employ other people to run their social networks. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. The people are very happy to pay out to outsource a problem that doesn't exist. So I got really angry with this. And then COVID came along and amplified it, because all of a sudden I was getting these people going, oh, I can't hang out with my friends. I can't go to the gym, when they were never going to the gym in the first place. But it now became this period of excuses. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but during the 2 years of COVID, there were more new millionaires registered than at any period in our life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, more people turned around and went, hang on a minute, this was done for me. Now I'm going to take chance of it. I remember the first thing I noticed in the first week, I wasn't traveling. Now, I'm on a plane twice a month, okay? But now I'm not driving anywhere. I'm not on a plane. It was like someone gave me 2 extra days a week.
Yeah.
Now, what did most people decide to do with that? They're going to text each other. What are you binge watching on Netflix? When I spoke to my people, they were like, I'm trying to see how I can make these hours. It was literally like we were given more time for 2 years. And so in doing it, I started doing these kind of like almost snidey little remarks on my Instagram page. Now, Steve D. Sims, that's my Instagram. And I started putting up these little memes and these little postings that were kind of aggravating me. And then someone said, you should put this into a book. And then I started interviewing some of my friends. And then I started looking at my marketing and how I do personal branding. And I started looking at the ways that you could go for stupid. Stop going for what you think is possible or plausible or even achievable. Because everyone great goes for things that are stupid and then steps back. If you don't have a goal that's laughable, then you're hanging around with the wrong people and you're not dreaming big enough. Right. If you want to make $2 million, let's develop a goal for 10 and you can fail and hit 5. That's the ethos. So I wrote this book because it really was a point of aggravation that people do not know how to communicate, brand, market, and actually achieve these ridiculous goals. Notice I'm not using the word impossible. You know, Elon Musk went, let's go to space. All right, now what? Well, let's work out how it needs to be done. Walt Disney, I'm going to build the Epcot Center. He wasn't even alive when it was released. The point is that people need to have these stupid visions, because if you don't, no one else is going to see them.
Right. You talk about some of the traits of the ultra wealthy. Like, I consider myself, because of the people in my life, I'm wealthy, and wealth doesn't necessarily mean money, but the ultra wealthy monetarily, they have some like 3 traits that you talk about that seem to be consistent.
There's a lot of commonality between them. As I said, I mentioned one to you earlier about doodling. But the ones that really is, they don't look at money, they look at impact. Okay. You see, here's an example, and you'll know this as an athlete. You don't buy a diet book and then get slim because of it. You get slim because you action the diet book.
Yes.
You don't get rich because you wake up one day and go, screw it, I'm going to be rich today. You get rich by impacting and actioning these ideas that generate income. So losing weight, becoming smarter, building up a bank account are byproducts of your actions. So when you talk to really wealthy people, they're never looking at this. They're looking at this. Do you remember I said to you earlier that we end up looking at the wrong bone?
Yes.
How many people out there every day check their bank account as though miraculously overnight it's going to have doubled? You know, if you check on your relationships, if you check on the communication, if you check on the basis of that you are a solution to someone's problem, if you check in on your brand integrity, your bank account will move. It will. I guarantee it. So I noticed that when I was talking to affluent people, they look at the impact they can generate as the most important. They look at relationships. But then the big one that I always got was they look at time. They actually treat time differently. They know they can make more money. They know they can make more impact. They know they can meet more people. But the one thing no one can control yet is time. At the end of the day today, it's done. It's gone. What impact did you generate during it?
Right. Well, and you talk about solving problems versus aspirational branding, right?
Yeah, aspirational is what you hope to be when you've made it. So Ferraris, Hermes bags, Rolex, they all lean on this. When you've made it, you buy our watch. When you've achieved it, you buy our car. It's an aspiration. Now, because of that, it's all like a showroom for a Ferrari is like a glass palace. You know, going and buying a handbag for your girlfriend or something like that. You know, you get all the hello, sir, how are you? It's this whole over the top. And when you go to Tiffany and you buy something, it's a box in a box with a box with a box in a bag with a bow. There's so many layers that's added to it.
Right.
When you've got a headache, it's on the shelf. It ain't in a box. It's in a tub. You undo the top and it solves your headache. When you've got something that solves someone's problem and it's a painful problem, you don't have to worry about all the branding and the prettiness.
Right.
You know, if you went into Tiffany and you went, I'll take that ring, and they went, there you go, and they handed you the ring, you'd be mortified. But if you went in and you had a headache or you had a stomachache or you had a bad pain from something, and someone started wrapping it in a box with a box and a fig leaf and a couple of roses, but you'd be like, for Christ's sake, man, give me the tablet.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand, what are you? When you're dealing with people, are you an aspirational market or are you a solution-based market? And then speak accordingly. You get it the wrong way around, you're screwed.
Yeah, and you're big on transparency, not authenticity.
Yeah, I want people. I want to be able to make a clear decision for you. That's really what I really want people to be aware of. I want people to make it very easy for me to be able to be consumed. You either like me or you hate me. And on this podcast, I guarantee you, there are people that hate me, and that's fine. I'm not taking offense by it. I just don't fit everyone's fit like you. You know. Right. I think today we're too concerned about trying to I hope everybody loves me. I don't give a shit. I hope the right people love me. The right people I can communicate with. The right people I can work with. The right people I can grow with. I don't want bad people in my relationship. I want the right people in my relationship.
Oh, awesome. So I want to bring this back around. You were carrying that HUD up the ladder, seeing all your father, your cousins, your grandfather. So your kids now, they see what you have created. And I think at least one of your children is in business with you with Sims Media, correct?
Yeah. So we launched, he had a media company and I had a branding company. And we just got together during COVID and went, hang on a minute, we're working both sides of the fence. And we were passing each other clients. And we literally just went, let's give it a go. And so we launched Sims.media with Henry Sims. And it's it's a relationship in progress. Every now and then like a typical father and son, but also typical business partners, we bash heads every now and then, but usually better stuff comes out of it. So it's great. So far, I can say it's one of my happiest moments and definitely one of my happiest business ventures.
Awesome. And then you have the Speakeasy.
Yeah, I have the Speakeasy, which is my idea of a mastermind. You can find any details of this on stevedsims.com. D for dashing and only one M in Sims. But I'm anywhere on Steve D Sims. I don't care if it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, not Tinder, but anywhere you go, you'll find Steve D Sims, and you can find out about the Speakeasies, my training, coaching, anything you like. But yeah, that's where everything's there on the Speakeasy.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I wanted to share you with anyone who hasn't seen you, because obviously you're no longer a secret with the people in my life. Because both books, your book "Go for Stupid" comes out October 18th, right? Amazon, Audible.
It's going to be all there, and you're going to be able to find it if you go to stevedsims.com and you text the word Sims SIMS to 33777. You'll be the first one to know about the book release and the location, but it'll be on Amazon.
And then the last thing, if they wanted to get those bluefishing checklists, how would they do that?
Yeah, again, if they text that word Sims, they'll automatically get it. So if you go to our website and subscribe, you actually get the Bluefishing checklist, the cheat sheet, and you'll also be notified of the next one, Go for Stupid.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the knowledge that you have extolled. You're a true gift to us.
I've enjoyed your enthusiasm. Thanks for the chat, Brian. Appreciate it.
You take care, Steve. I'll see you.
Bye.